The 482nd edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by the Hockey Gambling Podcast brand new YouTube page. The Hockey Guys are giving away a hoodie to celebrate the new YouTube channel. Register today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/HGP.
Howdy ho, Degenerinos. Welcome to episode, I should check. I should have it on my screen. 482, there it is, of the MMA Gambling Podcast, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Who should I dedicate this one to? Chris Weidman, because he has a really good matchup coming up that we can talk about for him. It's a really smart booking. So this goes out to Mr. Weidman and his brain health. Thank you for coming to the show. A couple more regional episodes, and then we got the UFC back in our ear holes. Today we're going to cover Urijah Faber's A1 Combat 17, as we have covered his events before. Pretty good events. Usually I think we can get betting lines on them too, which is good. So we'll do all of that. Of course, I'm not doing it on my own. There's no way I would cover this on my own. I have to have the person who's going to make the actual picks. It'd be the one and only Daniel Gumby Vreeland. Hello, Mr. Vreeland.
Hey, and speaking of betting lines, by the way, first of all, That's the first thing we got to talk about. LFA, which we covered last week, Wednesday and Thursday. So make sure you go back and listen to those. Those lines are now available. I was mostly in the right ballpark on all of them. I had the right favorites on everything except for the main event where I thought Jacoby Jones would be an underdog. He's like a 2-1 favorite, so just stay away from Jacoby Jones.
Good. Yeah, you picked him too, right?
I picked him to win, but I thought because it was half I kind of like Jacoby Jones. He's being underrated, but also half like, I think he'll probably be like, I think I said 150, 165. And no, he's like a negative 215 favorite. So like, just stay the hell away from that.
Why do you think that's so different than what you predicted?
So I thought that the hype on Genrich would be big because he's looked really good in LFA so far. And then with Jacoby Jones, he looked really shoddy on Contender Series. Like, he lost to a guy who didn't get a contract. So Dana White gives everybody a contract. So if you lost to the guy who didn't get one, it never looks all that good, right? So I thought for sure, because of how lackluster he looked, people would be down on him. But I think just that maybe I'm underestimating how much that Contender Series rub is, because sometimes, like, just being on that show, people now know your name and like hype you up more. So I think that's probably a little bit of it. But yeah, just stay the hell away from that. That's not worth it at all.
Yeah. So what do you think of Chris Weidman's comeback fight against Bruno Silva?
What?
I'm assuming this is the middleweight Bruno Silva, not the flyweight. Flyweight Bruno Silva
would probably knock him out.
Yes. He's fighting a man who's knocked out 20 of his 23 wins have come via knockout. So this is UFC just wants Chris Weidman to die, apparently.
I just don't understand. Like, there's a million middleweights who want to wrestle. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, there's tons of them. And even if those middleweights who love to wrestle came in and out-wrestled him or outworked him or put too much cardio on him, at least then you could say, like, okay, well, at least we gave him something that he wanted. You know what I mean? We gave him a matchup that he could win. And instead, you just like insist on booking him with the worst possible stylistic matchup. And granted, they are going down in rungs of difficulty, right? Like, they keep going like, a little bit softer, a little bit softer, a little bit softer until they get to the guy who's like 0-6, and then they pick him, right? Yeah. Pretty soon he'll be fighting Lucas Brzeski or something like that. But at the same time, like, just give him somebody, like, why is he not fighting high IQ Cody Brundage? Like that's a better matchup for him. Him and high IQ Cody Brundage would be, I'd still pick Brundage at this point because like Brundage has got knockout power, but it's like not the primary thing that I think of when I think of Cody Brundage, right? Like, we think of wrestling, which is why he's fighting Bo Nickel. It's like a guy who they think Bo Nickel can out wrestle. So why are they not giving somebody that Chris Weidman can maybe out wrestle? It's just dude, it's nuts.
It is. So that's when is that happening? I can't remember when.
Hopefully never.
Hopefully never.
I want to say it was March.
In a few months.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But more pressing matters is we are going to be covering Urijah Faber's A1 Combat 17 Green versus Felipe on this episode. So it looks like they basically run events monthly, right? At this point, it's pretty steady work, it seems.
Yeah,
A1
and I'm
Combat.
also going to caveat the name of the the name of the show that you just said, 17 Green versus Felipe.
Right.
Green is no longer fighting.
Oh, that's
So
right. Yeah.
I'm assuming it's probably not Green versus. It still says that on Tapology. No shame to
Yes.
you.
Saeteurn versus Ceja. Is that what it's going
Yeah,
to be instead?
probably. But here's the weird thing: Felipe's still on the card, and he's like
Oh
fourth
yeah,
from
right.
he's like fourth from the top now.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that happened, but it originally was, you're right, Green versus Felipe. Now it's probably not that. So just a quick caveat on that.
Yeah, so maybe the 7 and 6 Felipe shouldn't have been main eventing an event anyhow. So yeah. Well, yeah, we will get to all of this very. There is odds there's usually odds, right?
There's usually odds. I haven't looked as of this morning to see if they were already posted, because they're usually like, I mean, we're recording this on Sunday. Usually not Sunday, but usually they're not that far away on Sunday.
Okay, cool. And most of the books have it?
Nope. You
Bet online?
Yeah, Bet Online usually. Sometimes like Bovada sometimes has them, and then like DK or FanDuel or like those types will have it pretty much only when there's like a big lull in the UFC and they like need some MMA action that weekend.
Yep. We did have a big lull. UFC is about to come back very, very soon, though. All right, let's jump into this. This is going to be A1 Combat 17, which is taking place this coming. Actually, no, this is the 19th. This is happening. So we are ahead of the game once again. Friday, January the 19th, 9 p.m. Urijah Faber's A1 Combat. It's going to go down in the Sacramento State University Union Ballroom. Ever been there, Gumby?
No.
Of course not. Sacramento, California. It's in a cage and it's 8 fights. We're going to do the top 5 fights on the card for you, and it's on it's on Fight Pass, right?
So it usually is.
Was
last time. It was like weirdly on YouTube. So like it'll be in one of those two places, like easily accessible if you're a Fight Pass subscriber, or possibly even easier if you're not a Fight Pass subscriber.
Yes, there you go. Okay. Let's kick things off with a bantamweight fight, 3 5-minute rounds. Hector Fajardo. I assume it's Fajardo. Is that right?
Fajardo.
Do you even know?
I think it's Fajardo. Yeah.
Versus Arnold Jimenez. 2 Americans going at it. I will tell you about Jimenez first. 8-3 with 2 submissions. He's been submitted himself once. This is his A1 Combat debut. He's won 6 of his last 7. He did lose his last fight, though. That was back in August of 2022. So ring rust is a real thing. Something to keep in mind here. Used to fight up at featherweight, 6 years younger than Fajardo. El Matador is Fajardo. He's 6-3 with 1 submission. He also has some finishes here. He's been knocked out once. 2-1 in A1 Combat. He's won 2 straight. Before that, he lost 3 straight. And he's 1 inch taller than Jimenez. Like I usually ask off top, how familiar are you with the fighters on the card we're going to be breaking down? Going into it, or did you have to be
familiar with some of them? I'm more familiar with tomorrow's episode. I barely had to do any research, which was kind of nice. I knew at least one fighter in every single one of the fights on tomorrow's episode, in 2 of them in 3 of the fights. So like I had almost no research to do on that fight card. This one I had to do a little more, like especially on the earlier guys here, Fajardo and Jimenez, not guys I knew a lot about. But I realized I had seen Fajardo's one of his fights almost immediately upon beginning to do research. I was like, where have I seen this guy before? Then I poked down in his record and I was like, oh, I watched his fight with Peyton Talbot when I was researching Peyton Talbot for the Contender Series. So I had actually seen him fight once before. He's probably going to be a pretty big underdog here, despite the layoff for Jimenez. Because Fajardo, like that 3-fight losing streak you mentioned, probably not the best thing in the world. But like the loss to Talbot, he actually showed some really nice stuff. So first of all, he throws a really nice, he's a lefty. He throws a really nice right jab, left hook combination to the point where he like, I don't know, he backed Talbot up with it a couple of times. I'm not sure he landed anything like super significant in there that would like make me worry about him. But he does look dangerous when he comes forward. Like when he's on the attack and he's pressuring, he looks good. And when he let Talbot or, even the guys he beat after that, when he lets them back him up, he actually looks quite bad. So it's like one of those guys who, when he has intention, he's going to do good. When he doesn't have intention, he's going to look bad. But I will also say that, like, when he comes forward, if he meets a guy who's going to come forward, he gets in the clinch and, like they clash a little bit. His wrestling is like low key kind of sharp. He's got like not just wrestling, but he also like he judo through Peyton Talbot, wound up in side control in that fight. So like some pretty good stuff there out of him. And with Jimenez, I think he's going to be the favorite here because obviously he looks like a little bit better on paper. But I got a couple of problems with him. First of all, his grappling probably could stand up to the grappling of Fajardo, but big caveat here, he jumps Gilly a lot. And you know how we feel.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah, you know how we feel about guys who jump Gilly, and it's like it can work sometimes on the regional scene, right? But like when you run into a guy who's got, decent grappling in his own right, especially if he's got some judo, he's probably not going to fall victim to that crap. So like you're just going to wind up on the bottom a lot. And if that guy's got good pressure, as Fajardo sort of does, he probably is going to wind up in bad positions more often than not and lose rounds that way. I also don't like that he backs up a ton when he's pressured. He winds up with his back against the cage a lot. And the funny thing about that is one of the fights I was watching of him, as he backed up to the cage repeatedly in that fight, almost every single time he got hit with a left hand. And I don't know if it's just that his guard's too low on his right side, or if, it could be a number of things, but it just seemed like every time his opponent threw a left hand, he ate it. And luckily his opponent wasn't throwing very hard left hands. Fajardo throws a little bit harder, so that could be a problem for him. And also just in general, like when he's in longer grappling exchanges, I think he jumps Gilly sometimes because he tires. So like all of those things seem to lead in the favor of Fajardo for me. I think he's going to be, let's say like plus 175, plus 180 here. And I like the dog out the gate.
All right. That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. All right. Fajardo is the pick, as is Underdog Fantasy. That is our pick for making picks, making plays. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football, and MMA. They got it all over at Underdog Fantasy. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. Gummy, do you have a play for us in any sport?
Yeah, sure. I wrote about some underdog plays for Sunday's NBA slate for today, and you should get this in your ears before the nighttime games. I'll take Cade Cunningham's higher than on his points. Got him listed at 25.5, and he's gone for 30 plus in 5 of his last 6, with like a weird outlier of only scoring 6 points is the one miss. So I have to think he's never going to do that again. And, with all these 30 pluses, 26 seems very manageable.
Who are they playing tonight?
Did I see they were playing? Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. I had it in the article. Does it really matter if he's going for 30 plus every night? He's going for 30 plus every night.
I'm not a big Cade Cunningham fan.
Why are you not a big Cade Cunningham fan?
I don't think he's very Denver. Good.
They're playing
Denver in Denver. I would take the lower, ladies and gentlemen. Take the lower and Cade Cunningham points.
He's going for 30 plus every night. He went for 40
We'll see. We're going to watch along and find out, Gumby. We're going to watch along. We're going to make our picks, and we're going to maybe make a little cash if you listen to me over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. And I was wearing it yesterday. I should have wore it for the episode. A Hockey Gambling Podcast hoodie. They're giving away a hoodie, Hockey Gambling Podcast. They just launched their new YouTube channel. They want to celebrate. So they're going to give you one lucky listener an HGP hoodie to celebrate the launch of the YouTube. So go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/HGP to enter. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/HGP. All right,
And there are no Cade Cunningham haters on that podcast, so you're good over there.
No, they've not even heard of Cade Cunningham on that podcast. I can almost guarantee. All right, let's go back to Sacramento, shall we? A middleweight fight, 3 5-minute rounds. Felipe, Kevem, from Brazil, who was originally in the main event. He's instead fighting Tony Charles from the United States of America. Is Charles taking this on short notice then, or did they just take him from? It looks like it, right?
I would have to assume. I don't. Yeah. They don't give a lot of information on their bookings and stuff like that. But if it was originally called Felipe versus Green, and now Green is nowhere to be found, I have to imagine Charles didn't expect this.
Yes, I didn't see Charles on the card originally. So
they don't have a canceled fight from Charles.
Yeah, this would be him stepping in on short notice. All right. Middleweights, we'll tell you about Charles first. He is the Tiger, Tony the Tiger Charles. He's 3-2 with 1 knockout. He's been knocked out twice. This is his A1 combat debut on short notice, as I mentioned. Won his last fight, 2 inches taller than Felipe, 8 inches of reach, which is pretty big size discrepancy there. Felipe Mexicano is the nickname. He's 7-6. 5 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been submitted twice. This is his A1 combat debut as well. Win-loss win over his last 3. He did win his last fight via knockout. Was regional champion. Used to fight at welterweight. 2014 pro MMA debut. 2-1 as a pro kickboxer. 4 years younger than Charles. Alrighty, Gumby. What do we got here?
We're going to see Felipe at like a negative 500 favorite. Probably, with these regional lines, there's usually a pretty wide gap there in the odds. You're probably going to see 350 on the return for Charles, 375. And to be honest, it should be wider than that. Felipe was supposed to be in the main event. As you mentioned, why do you want a 7-6 middleweight in the main event of anything? The real reason is he's super exciting. I think they thought he was going to go in there and either, rip Green's head off or go out on his shield. Because that's kind of what he does. If you watch this guy fight, he literally puts 100% into everything he throws. And that includes like leg kicks to start the fight. If he's throwing a leg kick to start the fight, he will throw it 100 miles an hour and like be wildly off balance as a result of it. But like when he lands, I mean, like I said, the power's there. It's very clear that he's got good power. And you mentioned at first, I like saw the profile of Charles, who I wasn't super familiar with. And I was like, oh, he's a long, tall, lanky guy. Like maybe he's the perfect person to beat Felipe on short notice. And then I watched some film on him, and oh my God, this dude is so slow. Like he's long, and you could be like, oh, he'll pump that jab and stay away. But like, I think if Felipe just sprinted at him and got 3 feet from his face, he wouldn't react until he was already there. He's just the punches look like they're coming in slow motion. His head movement is just like a second later than it needs to be all the time. It's just like he is the perfect candidate for just like an ugly highlight reel knockout from Kevem Felipe. So I think Felipe knocks him out in 30 seconds here. And like I said, if it's negative 500, it's probably not high enough.
Do they usually have props available for these events?
If they do, just spam the KO round 1 here on Felipe, because that's what it's going to be. Yeah, I've seen them sometimes. Again, I think these books get a little bit more friendly with the different wagers they allow when the UFC's off. So because this is coming back when the UFC is back on, I think you might have a little bit of a hard time finding them. But if they're there, definitely that.
All right, there you go. We're going to go drop way down to flyweight now, 3 5-minute round. Flyweight fight, Jack Duffy, United States versus Devon Jackson from the United States of America as well. Jackson's got a classic nickname. Gumby, do you know his nickname?
If it's Jackson, is it Action?
The Relentless DJ Quick is the nickname.
that's better than Action.
DJ Quick, all one word. He's 3-1, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. So he finished everyone, and he's been knocked out in his 1 loss. So he owes us rounds. Damn it! This is his A1 combat debut. Got knocked out in his last fight. That's what I got for him. Duffy, the Fury is the nickname. He's 6-0, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's 1-0 in A1 combat. Used to fight at bantamweight, 2012 pro MMA debut, 2 inches taller than Jackson. All right, go ahead.
This one was kind of a tricky one for me to break down. I know Duffy's going to come in here as the favorite at 6-0 and being a guy who's got a lot of finishes in there too. I'm going to say It probably will be pretty steep, especially with Jackson coming in off that loss. So maybe like negative 230 plus 200 as the split. And the reason this one's hard to break down is because Duffy, we haven't really seen all of his game, so to speak. Because yes, he did fight a little while ago, right? Like he fought earlier in 2023. I want to say it was like August or July. But in that fight, the dude straight up sprints across the cage, hits a double leg takedown, and is on the ground for the entire fight. His last fight before that was 2019. So we haven't seen this dude strike in almost half a decade. And for me, that makes this one really difficult because the thing about Devon Jackson is Devon Jackson actually has some pretty good grappling. Like if you watch some of his fights, a lot of it is like Greco-Roman style takedowns. So like high end, like high center of gravity body locks and stuff like that. And actually, if you go back and you look at his pro debut, he beat Joshua Van, which is a win that has aged exceptionally well. I think Van only has 2 professional losses in his whole career, and one of them being Devon Jackson. And in that fight, the thing about Joshua Van that we all love, and it's been true since he was an amateur, is he's just got a motor on him that's incredible. Jackson managed to slow him down, get him in the clinch, and trip him and take him down. Now, he doesn't want to be on the ground with Jack Duffy, I don't think, but that if he's able to do that to Joshua Van and slow him down, I don't see any reason why he can't like do some of those things to slow Jack Duffy's offensive grappling down. And also, I haven't seen Jack Duffy strike. When I did see him strike 5 years ago, he was kind of limited. We have to maybe assume it's like a little bit better 5 years in the future. Although the timing could be pretty bad to start. Devon Jackson's a guy who like takes one to give one when it comes to striking. And the reason he does that is because he hits harder than damn near every flyweight I've seen on the regional scene with like a 3-1 record. Like he dropped one dude with a left hand, and it was, like one of those, when he hits him, he just like almost walks away. And then he's like, I don't know, maybe I'll follow up with one and the ref will stop it. So like, he's got that like very big KO power for a flyweight. And so if this fight winds up taking place on the feet, I really like Devon Jackson here. I think because he's fought more recently and fought more frequently, he's fought higher level of competition. He's actually shown multiple sides to his MMA game. I actually think he's going to look better on the feet here than Jack Duffy. So if he's going to come in at a plus 200 dog, I'm going to ride with him here.
Does it change anything that I forgot to mention that Jackson's taking this on short notice?
No, I don't think so, because like I said, he's been fighting more frequently. So who is Jack Duffy originally supposed to fight, out of curiosity?
Jack Duffy was supposed to fight Anthony Perales.
For some reason, I know that name. I know that name, but I can't tell you much about him.
All righty. So that is that. Let me tell you about a couple other more of our sponsors before we move on to the last 2 fights of the night. Game Time. Game Time is the spot to go for last minute tickets. It is the place for last minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals and tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals and tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. By my math, that means you're making money. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay ID in the Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. Get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, co-main event time. It is a 3 5-minute round welterweight fight. Sinjen Smith, United States. Tyson Miller, United States. Killer Miller, is 4-1 with 3 knockouts. He's been knocked out himself once. 0-1 in A1 combat. did get knocked out in his last fight. That was the fight I'm speaking of. He went 2-0 in Bellator, 5 years younger than Smith. The Saint is Smith's nickname. 4-0, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. This is his A1 combat debut. 2 straight wins via finish, 1-0 in Bellator, 3 inches taller than Miller. As I'm going to run away now for people watching on YouTube and plug in my earbuds, and Gumby's going to break down the fight for you. Go ahead, Gumby.
All right. I'm going to go. I'm going to say Sinjen Smith comes in here negative 300. The reason I think he's going to come in at negative 300, I just think in general, you look at his resume, it looks a lot better. Tyson Miller coming off of a knockout loss obviously puts him way lower. I actually think A1 Combat thinks Sinjen Smith is kind of a prospect-y type that they could get to the show. And, like with Peyton Talbot being their first guy to the UFC, it's sort of like that nice boost every time one of your guys makes the UFC. And I will say there's reasons to like him. Like defensively, he is really sound. Of all the guys who you're going to see fight on this card, he does probably the most smart stuff defensively, which includes like feints and head movement. A lot of guys on the regional scene when they're brand new use head movement just for the sake of moving their heads. His is like actually smart. It comes on the end of the feints, or when he throws combinations, it moves in a way to actually evade the shots that come back. In the clinch, I saw him get in on a single leg and he ran the pipe expertly. He did one of those, just perfect. Take my single leg, run the pipe, wind up with the top control. And the thing that I like most about him when he has top control is he's just very sound positionally. Jeff's back for those of you who are listening at home. So we're talking about Sinjen Smith for more.
Still, wow.
Yeah, because we were talking about how nice his defense was, and now that you're back here, we're talking about how good positionally he is on top. So he ran the pipe in the fight I watched. Positionally, he just like position over submission, but also decent ground and pound. And with Tyson Miller, that fight that you mentioned last where he lost, just tripped, put on his back, had no idea how to get back up. He's just one of those fighters who, has some decent ideas on how to stop the takedown when it comes time to stop the takedown. But once he's down, it just seems like he's out of plans. And against a guy like Sinjen Smith, who, like I said, is very smart positionally, that just means like 2 takedowns are going to win this fight for Sinjen Smith. And that's if he doesn't want to box with him. Because like I said, he's smart defensively, kind of has a couple of things offensively, but like nothing super to write home about. But I think Smith could pretty much beat him anywhere. And, negative 300 will probably be the line, but, he's probably still parlay worthy here.
All right. The Saint over the Killer. Good over bad is Gumby's pick there. All right. Let's go to our main event of the evening. Terrance, is it Saeteurn? Is it Saturn like the planet? Saeteurn versus Miguel Ceja. I'm guessing, or is it Ceja?
I think it's Ceja.
Ceja. Yeah, that sounds much better. You're right. This is a flyweight, but about 3 5-minute rounds, and Ceja is stepping in here on short notice. No, this fight just got moved up, right?
Yeah, this was originally the co-main, I think.
Right. Okay. Let's tell you about Ceja first. 3-1, 1 knockout, 1 submission. Never been finished in a fight. 1-0 in this promotion, A1 Combat. He's won 3 straight fights, 2 straight via finish. He's 2 inches taller than Saeteurn. Saeteurn, wrong turn is the nickname. He's 4-1, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. He's never been finished in a fight. 3-1 in A1 Combat, and he won his last fight. What you got for this one? Our main event.
So in this one, there are things that are really good about Saeteurn. Like for instance, I really love when he puts combinations together with his hooks. And I really like his defensive grappling when somebody shoots a takedown on him without any kind of entry. Here's the problem, is that when he lets his hooks go all the time, he often opens himself up for the takedown. So if he's doing one of those things, it's great. If he's doing the other one, it's great. Often, if it's mixed martial arts for a reason, he has to do those things together, and I just kind of don't trust him to. Luckily for him in this fight, he's fighting a guy who's got no interest in shooting a takedown. So he could just let his hooks fly, not have to worry about those like defensive underhooks and stuff like that. And the problem I have about with Ceja is, even though he's a little bit taller than Saeteurn, I think he's got a 2-inch height advantage here. You said, even though he's got a little bit of a height advantage, he unfortunately uses it the wrong way. He's got like tall guy defense. And what I mean by that is he leans straight back and walks backwards when he is trying to defend. And that does two things that are, sort of incorrect in the grand scheme of things. Number one is it doesn't actually protect his chin, other than just to like lean slightly out of range on some of the really short people he's fought, or the worst people he's fought. And number two, he keeps backing up against the cage, which is going to allow him to not be able to lean the next time. And he's not really great at the footwork on circling away. I've seen him eat some hooks on those. So, I think Saeteurn probably going to be a sizable favorite here. Let's say like negative 250, probably negative 220, 225 on the return for Ceja. And I am going to go favorite again here. I'll take Saeteurn. I think he probably cracks him here at some point.
The rings of Saeteurn will come through. Wrong turn, Saeteurn. All right, let's recap. He's got Saeteurn, he's got Smith, both as probably sizable favorites. Jackson hopefully has a sizable dog. Felipe has a very large favorite, but he told you if you can get some props on that. First round knockout, get that going. And then he thinks Fajardo will be a pretty sizable dog, and he's taking him as well. Correct?
That sounds right.
All right. That's A1 Combat in your ear holes and eye holes if you choose. We'll be back tomorrow. One more regional event, our normal regional MMA Monday episode, and then we're back to the UFC for Wednesday and Thursday's episode. You can catch us in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. You can catch us on the Twitter, SGPN MMA. Gumby Vreeland, Jeff Fox Writer are the handles there. I'm Jeff Fox Writer on Instagram. I got a Substack. You can subscribe to that at moneymma.substack.com. Gumby's got another podcast called the Top Turtle MMA Podcast. Do you know who's on this week?
I do. I've got a couple of opponents on this one. I'm talking to Joshua Van, the aforementioned on the earlier part of this episode, as well as his opponent, Felipe Bunes, which is a Portuguese language interview. So you can enjoy that if you are Portuguese, but also obviously there's a translation.
There you go. So that's Top Turtle MMA. And make sure you hang out at sportsgamblingpodcast.com and sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon so you can help us crush corporate gambling. We'll be back tomorrow. As I said, it will be the Wrong Turn, Jeff Fox, and the Saint Gumby Vreeland will be making the picks, and we will talk to you then. Bye-bye.